Seibert with his speech, Humor in Art.
You know, one of the challenges for our club, the Art Talkers Club, is to work art into everything you're doing. So I'm trying to do a speech on humorously speaking, and the question is how to work in art. Now, if I knew that losing in the Olympic Games was an art, it would have been easy. So
maybe want to drain the treasury.
Okay, let's see. This is Windows 2007. This is another art, but this is a black art, the art of Microsoft. Okay. My son and I visited an art museum, a modern art museum, and we were looking at this painting which had a lot of wavy lines and bright colors, and Jack said, "Daddy, what's that?" And I said, "That's supposed to be a cowboy on a horse." Well, why isn't it? There are a lot of jokes about art. Calvin and Hobbes, my favorite cartoon character, makes a lot of jokes. Calvin said at one point, the problem with being avant-garde is knowing who's putting whom on. This is a famous piece of art. This is done by Andreas Serrano. He took a $2 plastic crucifix that he bought from the Catholic Church someplace. He took some of his own urine, which he provides for free. He put it in a jar. He entitled it Piss Christ, and it sold for $100,000 10 years ago. Who's putting who on? That is an amazing piece of art. But is it art? The art is getting people to believe it. Going back to Calvin and Hobbes, thank you, Seibert, for helping me with the title. Calvin says, "This is my snow sculpture, Bourgeois Buffoon. Can you believe my mom wouldn't give me a grant to make more of these?" Mm-hmm. Why should she give you a grant? My art is leading edge stuff. It deserves public support. Well, what if the public doesn't like it? They're not supposed to like it. This is avant-garde stuff. I'm criticizing the lowbrows who don't appreciate great art. But you'll take their money. Well, yes, you don't expect me to suffer. God, this kind of summarizes the American attitude toward art. But actually, there is some humor in art in itself. This is a piece by a Spanish Basel de Casas, 1874. It's very fresh. This is what we call trompe d'oeil, fool the eye. And this kid is escaping from the painting, and it's called Escape. Here's Calvin and Hobbes again, a snowman contemplating his own mortality, echoing Hamlet talking to the skull of his friend Yorick. And here's Escher. Escher is a weird guy from Holland who just died recently. He has water flowing down, 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 down in a continuous circle. I don't know if it's funny, but it makes you think. And then there are some guys who are just kind of in-your-face funny. This one is entitled Bear Surprise by American John Lurie. I add the fig leaf because I may present this to an American audience. But actually, it's very popular, Wikipedia tells me, among Russians who call it Privet Medved. And now, I understand from the Wikipedia audience, it's become popular when you score a goal, it's Privet Medved, Privet Medved. Not all humor in art is confined to fine art, that is sculpture and art. Some of it is in interior design, such as this piece in a toilet. I would feel a little bit nervous myself in this toilet. And some of it you know, just speaks for itself. There's no Trump doy here. This isn't subtle, but I like it. Now you'd think that this toilet humor wouldn't translate too well into architecture. Architecture is kind of big, but you'd be wrong. Close to where I used to work in Washington, D.C. is this building. And what do you suppose they call it? Anybody? The toilet bowl building. And there's this one too. What do you suppose they call that? Shopping bag building. Now these architectural jokes get a little bit old. These buildings have been there 20 years and people kind of know what they are. But there's some humor in architecture that really holds up pretty well. Now borrowing from that famous Russian, Grigory Pachomkin, this Trump Doyle artist painted on this deserted building in Brooklyn. This is the most amazing scene of life. So as you're driving through the block after block of buildings with nothing going on, you all of a sudden see people having dinner on the balcony, hanging out laundry, talking with one another. Of course, it's all a fake, but it's pretty good, and it does really add life. Where I come from in Washington, D.C., real estate is expensive, particularly real estate with a water view. But with a little paint, you can make your own water view. Sometimes the humor in the building is weird at the time. This is the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, what people thought was an atrocity when it went up, and now they appreciate it. It's part of the heart of Barcelona. The same with the Transamerica Tower in San Francisco. Mark and I remember that being just totally weird when they put it up, a big pyramid in the middle of San Francisco. Now it's kind of a landmark of the city. And sometimes even the artist may not appreciate his own art. This is by Titian, pretty good artist. And it's Adam and Eve, okay, and instead of a snake, there's a kid handing Eve the apple. Wait a minute, this doesn't work, because before Eve ate the apple, there was no sin. Without sin, there was no sex, and without sex, where did kids come from? It's backwards. I don't understand it. But I'll tell you, there was one time in this museum, there was a group of tourists, including an Englishman, a Frenchman, and a Russian, looking at this. And the Englishman said, you know, these people are English. Look at their calm, their composure. The Frenchman said, no, they're French, because they're so comfortable without their clothes on, and they're beautiful besides. The Russian said, no way, they're Russian. They don't have any clothes, they don't have any shelter, they've just got an apple between them to eat, and they think they're in paradise. Madam President.